Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And again, we're back at Undercaste Studios. Super excited to be here. But before we get into it, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time.
All right. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hello, I'm Katrina.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Sure. From Seattle. Mm-hmm. Lived here my whole life. Mm-hmm. Been doing music for over 20 years professionally. Okay. I teach and I also perform and I also do studio work. And I do a lot of improv and I also write down-tempo electronic type music.
Gotcha.
And then I also perform it with using Ableton. And anyway.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I also am a jazz singer too, so I make a lot of money actually that way too.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was definitely checking out some of your stuff, and it's very well rounded.
Yeah.
But before we get into more of what you do now, how did you get started in music initially?
Started playing piano when I was 4. My mom's a piano teacher. Mm-hmm. She started teaching when she was 16, and she's very, very good. I could never be better than her. And then, so I was in choir and, in grade school. I was in orchestra. I played violin for 5 years, gravitated to songwriting. And then I took some private lessons, and then I decided to go to Cornish. So I went to Cornish and I got a degree in music, a degree that focused on composition and voice. Mm-hmm. So graduated in 2007 and then I'd been teaching and performing ever since. And I was performing when I was going to school too. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've just been kind of in it from the start.
Yeah.
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 When you were growing up, was there anything else that you wanted to do, or has music just been 100% the focus?
Actually, when I was in high school trying to decide, even my first year of college, I was taking just all types of classes. Mm-hmm. And I really love to paint and do art.
Okay.
Draw, watercolor. So I felt like I was actually better in that than I was with music. So I chose to go to school for music because I also felt like I could make more money doing music for some reason.
That's fair.
So I'm like, well, let's do music this part of my life, and then I'll start integrating, the art stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because I guess music, if you do it professionally, you can still do visual art.
Oh, yeah.
In all of your time anyways.
You can do it.
You can do it during.
Yeah. You can do it during.
Yeah.
I, for some reason, was main focus music.
Gotcha.
And so I really went full in with that. Yeah. And then ended up just making a living. I make my living off of being a musician. So
that's awesome.
I feel like my mom is a big inspiration for that.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, because she made a living off of teaching and performing, mainly teaching. So, and she's a hustler. So I'm I learned my hustle from her.
Yeah, you kind of had the groundwork laid down and showed you how to do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's rad. Now, before we get into more of what you do in the present day, I do have a couple foundation questions I like to check in with everybody on. And this first one, it's one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
Oh, that's a good one. The first album I bought with my own money. Honestly, like when I was in middle school, I definitely like stole albums, CDs.
Allegedly.
Never got caught. It wasn't me. Man, I'm trying to really think like what was the first ones. I was really into, the Beatles. But like during that time was like grunge era, and I was really into Jane's Addiction and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Tori Amos was one, but I really don't remember the first one.
That's all right.
That I like. Oh, that would be good. That would be good to remember that.
Well, if you remember afterwards, message me and I'll put it on the screen.
Yeah.
But I mean, those are all quality bands. I'm sure you had something along the lines there. And then what was one of the first live shows you ever went to that was like specifically one you wanted to go to?
Okay. Because my mom would drag me to a bunch
I could imagine. Yeah.
Classical, like, orchestra and ballet stuff, which was great. I totally appreciate that.
Yeah.
But the first one that I remember going to that I wanted to go to was I went, if we're talking like I went with my friend when we were like 9 and her parents took us to see the Beach Boys. I would say that was like my first, what felt like a real rock concert.
Yeah.
As opposed to the ones that I was being taken to.
Yeah.
But then I think one that I really enjoyed going to, the festival that would always happen Labor Day weekend. Why am I blanking on this? In Seattle.
I wish I was from here so I could offer that information.
Wow, I'm having a full-on mind blank right now on it. Anyway, I remember seeing Jewel.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then Squirrel Nut Zippers. And then also it was Red Hot Chili Peppers. So that was like super memorable for me.
Yeah.
Being a teenager, like around, I think I was like 16 maybe.
Okay.
Around that age.
So a pretty pivotal time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
Man, I bet. That sounds like an awesome show.
Yeah.
All right. And now for this last one, before we get into it, this might be a little bit difficult because you've been doing it so much for so long. But do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
It was my first year of college when I was taking more like art classes, but I was taking private lessons from Becca Crystal, who went to Cornish. And so I was taking songwriting. So a little bit of voice, a little bit of piano, but songwriting was specific. And I think she kind of inspired that. It was also just my decision of like, you know what, I'm actually going to go full on and do this. Because I realized that I was just collecting things along the way. Like I was writing poems in middle school. I'm like, one day I'm going to do something with this, And I remember hearing on the radio, the first songwriter that I really was like, that I gravitated to was Fiona Apple. And I was like, wow, really started thinking about in high school, like I want to be able to write songs. How do they do that? That's so cool. So that's why I ended up getting a private instructor and then wrote a few songs. And then I was just really like, I want to just keep doing this. I was very shy too, very shy person. So it was actually kind of a surprise to my mom that I wanted to like be on stage and I wanted to like be a vocalist and, play music and write songs. So it was something I definitely wanted to break through and do and get through the get through the fear of it, the shyness. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you definitely did it. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right, now let's go ahead and we're going to get on into more of the present day. We are going to get what I imagine is a very easy one out of the way. How'd you pick the name?
Well, the name?
Yeah.
Katrina Kope?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my name.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Like I said, I had a
name.
feeling, but I've had a couple people on here now who they have stage names that sound like regular names, but are not their regular names at all.
Well, I mean, Kope is my married name. I got married, and I'm like, gladly I will take this last name and do music under this name. But for a very long time, I actually, so my last name before was Weible, Wible. And, I didn't really like it so much, probably mainly because people would always be like, Wibble?
Fair,
you know? And so like the first part of my career, it was more under just band names. So like Soul Kata was a band that I was in for like over 10 years. And that was like we met in college. So we were like the college band. And we're like, we're going to do something, and we did. We were like played on Germany, radio stations in Germany. And we released our last album at the Triple Door.
Oh, cool.
So we were like,
you were doing it.
We were doing it. Yeah. Like part of the band was now they're polyrhythmics. So we had like this 9-piece band. And then I started Purgato, Purrgato, which was more of the, I'm going to do the music that I want to do kind of a thing. And that was more like Depeche Mode meets Lana Del Rey meets Lady Gaga.
That's a very good way to describe it, actually.
Yeah,
very much so.
Yeah, because I don't know what we are, but it was not many bands were doing so much of that. I mean, there were some like really cool bands that we were billing with, but guitar, affected vocals, no guitars, no stringed instruments. It was all like synths and then drums, but like electronic and a hybrid of electronic and real drums, which was really fun.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, so we got to do a lot of fun festivals. So it was really fun to go from something that was more like Amy Winehouse type, soul, R&B to like more electronic, like dark witch pop, dark wave witch pop kind of.
Yeah, definitely a lot more like industrial and moody.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, no, I dig that. And actually, let's go ahead. Let's take a moment and talk about your writing process then. And we'll kind of, we'll focus as much on the now as we can. And I know you live in the realm of like improvisational as well as like you're doing your own stuff. But when it comes to just making music, how do you go about getting a track started?
I like to do it all different ways. I kind of go through phases of where it starts with just the words, like a phrase or an idea, and then I'll just write that out, and then I'll have my words, and then I'll be like, okay, well, what feeling comes about it, and then I'll come up with the chord progression, and then I would, when I would just take it to bands, it would just kind of go from there. So I'd write out the melody, I'd have the chord progression, I'd take it to the band, and I'd tell them what genre I want it to be in, or, what feel. And then, but when I started doing more producing on my own back in like 2018, actually I was doing it before that, 2010, around then, that's what Purgato came out of. But when I started doing it on my own with Ableton, it was more like I would find cool sounds, like make the vibe first and then see what words come out of it, kind of a thing. I do a lot of improving. So lately what I've been doing is when I improv with Marmalade, which is a funk band, but then I also improv with my EDM band called Hurricane Dreams with a Z. And I will take videos of that, and I'll come up with a hook, and then I'll just like go back to that, and I'll build, an Ableton file off of that idea, and then with the hook, and then it's just all about filling in the meat, the meat of it. Yeah.
Hell yeah, I dig that.
Yeah.
And when did you like come across the like Ableton approach?
That was in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was like, I just was finding it, I was frustrated with working with band members sometimes. And I would be like, there was sometimes a struggle of like being able to do what you want, or you hear something and then, but then everyone else all has ideas, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I definitely got to a point where I'm like, I want to produce my own stuff, and I just want it to be mine, and I want to have all the say in it. And so my friend who is in Pergato, Devin Buse, he's very well versed in Ableton Live, and so I got it, and then he just kind of showed me a few things, and then I went from there.
Gotcha.
Like how to produce it, and then mainly play live. So.
Yeah, which I mean is really kind of its biggest power.
Yeah.
Which I mean also this show is entirely, all the audio is edited in Ableton as well. We're very
nice.
pro Ableton at this show.
Pro Ableton. Yeah.
Had you had any experience with like other like production software prior to that, or is that like the first one you had your real hands on?
Yeah, actually, me and my mom and one other teacher taught a music technology camp on Mercer Island for 9 years. And so what we used with the kids there and how we taught them was through GarageBand, and so that's kind of actually where I first learned how to do like looping and easy
so you were
stuff.
familiar with all the buttons and stuff.
Yeah, I did learn Digital Performer when I was at Cornish.
Okay.
And then I never touched the program after that.
Yeah, it's not my favorite.
Yeah.
It's a difficult program to really dive into. Yeah.
But then I ended up getting Logic, because Logic is the like daddy version of the baby GarageBand.
Yeah, it's their professional like music production software, which prior to Ableton, that was what I was using.
Yeah. So in fact, I still use both those programs. I use Ableton to produce my electronic stuff, and then what I end up doing is like when I'm done tweaking everything, then I'll put the arrangement in Logic, and then I'll record my vocals.
Gotcha.
And then mix it.
That makes sense.
Someone else mix it.
Yeah. No, I get that. Using kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, because I found that. I mean, Ableton now where it's at, like you can do vocal editing much better. But before, when I had like Ableton 9, it was like one track, and I couldn't figure out how to like do takes. And I'm like, I know how to do this in Ableton way better, in Logic way better. So that's what I end up doing.
No, I dig that. That's rad. And I mean, it's good to be able to like use more than one software. I think like having knowledge in multiple just means if and when you go other places, you're not stuck like with everything. But I think Pro Tools is kind of the tough one for anybody to like get their hands on at every level. But everything else is so accessible that it's like knowing how to use them just means you can go more places and do more things.
Right.
Yeah.
My next step is trying to learn like some DJ gear. So like getting my tracks so that they're just like, ready to mix.
Yeah. Have you ever looked in, are you familiar with like the Ableton Push?
I have the Push.
Okay, cool.
That's what I use when I play live.
Yeah, that is definitely, I think that's kind of a good hybrid. That and like the APC 40, I think is another really good controller. But if you're trying, are you trying to move over to like using DJ equipment as well, or just like getting your songs ready for it?
Ready for it. Cause my sister, Christine Michelle is a DJ. So and I have some DJ friends. So I'd like to, give them some tracks.
Yeah.
And even just a vocal tracks. So pretty much I'm like, been doing that with some of my DJ friends.
So just like stemming out some of your stuff.
Yeah, stemming it out. But I'd also really like to learn how to DJ my own stuff so I don't have to bring the Push and the computer.
Yeah.
Although I know that the Push 3 now has a computer in it. So but I have the Push 1. I really like it a lot.
That's fair. Yeah, like the jump from 1 to 2 wasn't so drastic that it was really needed. But yeah, man, I gotta look into the Push 3 more. I know about the Move. That's the one that I heard
The
about
Move.
recently, which is that they're like slimmed down version. It's like smaller and it's standalone. But we will get into the technical weeds real fast in this show. So I'm gonna move us back to the questions here.
Yeah.
But getting back into the writing part of the process. Once you get a track finished writing, so it doesn't have to be like recorded and released, but like you've gotten all the words down, you got in the process, you're ready to start like rehearsing it. How long does it usually take you to feel comfortable enough to perform a track?
I did a set at the Monkey Loft, more of like a dance set, because I do like down tempo, but then I also like have a set that I do up tempo. So before that, I was like, I gotta write a hit, you know, right before, and I ended up finishing the song the day before, and then I just like went through it enough times and played my guitar, just like soloed a little bit over it just to like feel comfortable enough. I think, you know, and I also like didn't write all of the lyrics. I just knew I had a hook. I had a couple hooks, and then I just sort of, because I do improv. Yeah,
you're so well versed in it.
Yeah, I just like made up a verse, you know?
Okay.
But so since I know how to fly by the seat of my pants, you know, like be in that space of like, free fall.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I'm like, I can get myself to a point where it's like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
did you record that version like live and then like learn what you said afterwards and write it from there, or did you just kind of go with it after?
Someone did take some video of it, so I've was able to like, you know, take bits and pieces of that, but I did end up just like doing it different ways, depending on the environment that I play the song.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just kind of left it more adaptable.
Yeah, I kind of did.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And now, I guess, since we're on the topic of the improvisation, man, that's the time I need to practice that word more.
Improvisation.
Yes. How do you go, like, what, because I am definitely not in that realm. That is not my strength. But like, as like a vocalist, do you play like instruments in that setting as well?
I do. I'll bring my synth out.
Okay.
And play, but mainly I sing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What is that like? How do you go about it? Like, I don't even really have a good question to gear towards it. I'm just curious about the process.
It's like knowing a language, you know, and doing a lot of listening, right? And then feeling the vibe, and then seeing what sort of words are invoked. And also it depends on like what happened that day for you or what happened that week. So that's what I also try to do, is like pull from maybe thoughts that I've had. You know, like this last week was, you know, the election. So I performed with Marmalade, and I have to also be careful, like what I do, what I say, because being an improvisationalist, improviser, I know the word. Songwriter, vocalist, whatever, we are spellcasters. We are invoking feelings. We're hypnotizing people. So I know that I need to be really careful about that. So with Marmalade this last week, I was like, my intention was to, you know, just make people feel good, make people feel loved, make them want to dance, not make them, but you know, like
inspire them.
Yeah. Yes, that's a better word for it. Inspire them, and not try to put any sort of like anger or any sort of anything that would, you know, make anyone feel a sort of certain way. So I really tried to be careful about that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Man, there's a lot of layers to doing it.
There's a lot of layers. And then also, being able to come up with words. I'm very good at coming up with hooks. Sometimes I feel like I'm not so good at like coming up with the meat of it. Like, what is it that I'm actually trying to say? Sometimes I'm really, really good. Sometimes I'm not. It depends on like where you're at, like how tapped in are you into the flow, you know, because it is like this feeling of like almost like you're hypnotizing yourself, you know, you're just like settling into this like feeling and this vibe, and then like pulling from it's not really me, it's like from the ether. You know. And
I guess you do it as a specific group, like you said. I'm sorry, the name. I meant to write the names down.
Oh yeah, Marmalade. Yeah. So Marmalade's been going for over 20 years. I became the front person for Marmalade just a few years ago.
Gotcha.
So Funk Love used to be the front guy, and he like texted me one day. I was like, "Hey, can you like step up and take over?" And I was really like nervous, and oh my God, what an honor. I felt like it was such an honor to do that, because I just have looked up to and been inspired by Marmalade for so long, you know, and I was up on stage with him a bunch. Like he would pull me up or ask me to step in if he couldn't do it, and it was just really fun, you know, like riffing off of each other. It's so much more fun when you have someone else to do that with.
Yeah, do the back and forth.
Yeah,
with. That's why I don't do this solo. I'm in the same boat there.
Yeah.
But do you enjoy the challenge of improvisation then? Is it like something where it's like does it help your creative process outside of it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I sometimes come up with ideas, just, you know, you feed off the energy of the audience or the players that you're playing with. And when it's really good, and you get excited and you're like, I've got this idea, and then it just like unfolds beautifully, and then it becomes a song. Yeah. And I know that we're actually going to release a song called Man with the Plan in early February. So we're going to do a music video to it.
Oh, cool.
And it came from just a jam.
Gotcha.
And I just had this like, I don't know, I just had this feeling of like, I'm the man with a plan. Yeah. You know? So, and then they're like, oh yeah, this is great. And then we just went in the studio and we like recorded it, and it's
that's rad.
Really fun.
So do y'all have like original songs that you'll play kind of in between the spaces, or do you just leave it entirely improvisational? I'm getting better at that word.
Improvisational. Yeah. We've been mainly improving just, but there are songs that they have written, and sometimes we pull them up. We have this one song, just the Marmalade song, where we're like, Marmalade. What's that? Marmalade. And everybody says it, you know. So we like end on that. And that's one that I'm sure we're going to record.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one we recall. We actually we never ever rehearse. So we started rehearsing so that we can play the song we're going to release live. And then also all these other ideas that we're kind of sitting on that have been like really awesome ideas that we're like, we're going to record these and make these songs. So
yeah. Hell yeah.
So it's a little bit of a process. It's just really interesting because the band is just, that's what it's been. It's like this family vibes. People come to dance and just let steam off, and like, you know, it's like church for some people. It's church for me, you know, because I get to just like I get to like pull from whatever and just like let it out, and also, you know, feed off of everyone too. So
that's awesome.
Great. Yeah.
And do you do that is that the one you do at Sea Monster?
Yeah, the Sea Monster. Yeah.
I am blanking on her name now. I'm so sorry, but I interviewed the lady who does the booking there.
Oh yeah. Carmel. Yeah.
Carmel,
oh great.
Shout out. Yeah,
she's great.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, I also run another improv, but it's more geared towards, the idea is EDM improv with a band. So we got a drummer and a guitar player and a synth player and a bass player, and they're all amazing players that all are in other groups and tour. And so we do that every second Wednesday of the month, also at Sea Monster.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I realized that I'm also the only woman that has 2 monthlies at the Sea Monster. I think I'm not sure if that's ever been a thing before. So I feel very like, on the frontier of the woman in music, inspiring other women to like just fucking do it.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. I love that.
Yeah.
Now I want to take a moment and I want to talk about your music.
Okay.
So I went and I jumped on, ye old Spotify.
Okay.
And you've got a couple of tracks on there. And then the one track with Rob Martini and Friends.
Yes.
And then I also jumped on YouTube and I checked out your album Today and Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's cool. I appreciate, first of all, the duality between the two experiences. I think that it's nice. That album in particular is really well put together. First of all, you and Josh Rollins really, I assume Josh was playing the piano on that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That was, I mean, it's just a solid body of work. It's really good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And then your most recent track, "End You," that one is very much in the realm of what you're doing more presently.
Yeah.
And now just to confirm, Purgato, is that the current group name, or was that the project that you kind of just like attached it to?
Well, it's like we wrote it like during the pandemic.
Gotcha.
So me and my husband at the time, like that was our band. Our last actual show was in January. Yeah, January before the shutdown in 2020.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then just life happens, and then but we ended up actually making that song just in the studio. So we never practiced it as a band or played it live, but we made it specifically for a fan-made film, Friday the 13th fan-made film called Vengeance.
Okay.
It didn't make it in the film, but there is a shot, I think it's at like minute 11 or 12 or something, where you can see Purgato stickers on a laptop.
Oh, cool. Okay, so it's still, the name still makes it.
The names makes it in there, and we also covered. We did in the studio, never played it live, but Alice Cooper wrote a song called "He's Back," and that was for the 6th Friday the 13th movie. So in the end credits, it's like the first song that you hear. And so we covered that, hoping that they would put it in the end credits. And it is there. It's like second or third song down, but that was really fun. So Purgato kind of started out as like just doing studio, like making the songs in the studio. And then it was like, well, I want a band to play these really cool, fun tunes. And then it kind of went back to the studio, and we are sitting on an album. So we're sitting on an album of like 8 songs, and actually we recorded 10, but only 8 of them are on the album. I don't know. We might do something with those other 2. So they just need to be mastered, and then we're going to release them just as singles and possibly with music videos to a couple of them, but no real plan to play live.
Gotcha. Okay.
Unless there's a call for it. Unless people are like, we need to hear you. And then it'll be like, okay.
Okay. Well,
okay,
that's
then
cool.
I'll do that.
But, so it's a little more, it sounds like it's a kind of a fluid experience in certain degrees.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to hear what the album sounds like. That's going to be fun.
I'm super excited because we wrote it with our drummer, Devin Buse. So it was a lot of songs that we came up with when rehearsing or just playing, improvising, just getting together, making up songs. And so it's got like, I'm really actually proud of that one out of all the 3, because we released 2 before, and the first one's your freshman album, the second one you're like trying to prove something else, and then and this one felt more like this is us.
Okay. Do you have a name for it yet? You don't have to say it if you don't want to.
We don't. We toyed around with how Portishead came out with like 3 or Third or something. We were just like, maybe we'll just call it Third, or like number 3, or just do that. We could probably come up with a better title than that.
Fair.
It just it's like there's a lot juggling, like when you're like solo stuff.
Yeah.
That band, improv band, another improv band. And then I also play with Good Co. Just Good Co, no dot, Good Co Music. And they are electro swing, which actually combined my two worlds, where I was like, this is exciting because I like all of this. I do. I love to sing jazz. It's like something I feel like I can do until I'm like an old lady, you know?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got the ability to do it, I feel like it's something that you probably have to appreciate to a certain degree.
Yeah, and I enjoy it. And also, like,
also, electro swing is cool. It's like
cool.
it's definitely made its way to the forefront in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting genre because it does mix two very high energy experiences.
Right. Yeah. So we're in the studio. So 7 of my originals are going to be on the album.
Oh, cool.
And I think like 17 songs. So we may have 2 separate albums out of it, you know? And we're going on tour in Europe March 15th to April 15th.
Oh, so dang.
Over my birthday's April 10th. So I'll be in Europe for my birthday.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, that seems to work out pretty well.
I'll be like, my students, sorry, I'm going to be gone for a month, students.
Well, that's exciting. I'm definitely curious to hear how that goes after you come back.
Super excited.
Yeah. And now I guess that kind of segues well into the next question, which is just tell us a little bit about music that you got cooking. What are you working on that we can look forward to? And I mean, I guess you kind of already mentioned a handful of it.
Yeah. So like some songs with Good Co. when this next album comes out, probably next year. And then Marmalade, we have a couple songs that we went in the studio with. So definitely we're releasing Man with a Plan in February. I'm also working on solo stuff. So I have a couple singles that I'm going to be coming out with. I may release one in December, possibly January. So coming up soon.
Okay.
But just since my mom went in remission, so I've been caretaking my mom. She's had stem cell transplant in January. So that's been a lot to run a studio, take care of my mom. I've been so blocked not being able to like sit down in the studio. And it seems like ever since we found out that she was in remission, I'm like, all right, I felt like floodgates open, you know?
That weight had been lifted.
Yeah. So we've been, doing some studio stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I guess that's always a good way to remind us all that like life impacts music in so many ways.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It inspires it. Sometimes the floodgates are open. You're like, oh my God, I can't stop writing this breakup that I went through. I have to get it out. Or life stuff like somebody getting sick and it does. Or a break or a marriage ending, it's like lots of big, or the pandemic.
Oh man. It's having done this. Yeah. I've done over 300 interviews. And it's really interesting how many people started because of the pandemic. They were like, I had never really had, they had kind of dabbled with it, but then they had this giant moment in time where all they could do was sit there with their hobbies. And they were like, well, let me lean into this more. And so much cool stuff has really come from it. And the only silver lining to come from that experience.
That is really cool. Yeah. There definitely wasn't, more people coming out to the jams. And so it was really interesting being somebody who's been in the music scene, been doing it for over 20 years. And then all these new people coming in that I'm like, we need teachers.
Yeah.
We need people to help them show the way. And I'm like, oh, I'm one of them, And so it was just really interesting, feeling this pull as been doing it for a while. And also it's changed a bit too, how people do music, how people are booking themselves. And I know for me, I'm I stopped wanting to do just venue shows for no reason. I am doing this one with a handful of lovely ladies on the 27th, November 27th at Chop Suey. So I feel like that's a fun, fortunate thing to do because they're all solo artists and some of them are in their 20s that, just started doing this a few years ago, it seems like. So it's kind of really cool to there's like a spectrum of songwriters that are going to be on the show.
Is that the one that Geronimo's on?
Yes.
Yeah. She was actually just on the show a couple weeks ago when this comes out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and by the time this comes out, that show will have happened already.
Okay, well.
But that's still, I'm curious to hear how it went after, but I'm sure it was great.
Right? Yeah.
Sure, it was great. Now I want to take a moment and I want to kind of zoom out.
Sure.
I want to look at kind of music as a whole. What are some of the things about either new music, if you're one of those people that's taken in the new all the time, or at the very least music that's new to you, that you've found recently, that you're listening to and you enjoy and maybe find inspiration in at the moment?
Yes. What I love is teaching my students. I have a few vocal students, and some of them are like preteen or teenagers. So I have like a 14-year-old, now she's 15 probably, student that they always bring in these songs. They're like, oh, I really want to play this song. And it's like, I've never heard this artist. They're new artists. So I really appreciate that they bring in these sort of new artists that I wouldn't normally hear, because I don't know. I do end up hearing new music on Spotify, but not much. I used to look on YouTube. So like, who is it? Who am I playing right now? I mean, of course, like who I really like that's come out is Her, Her.
Yeah.
Like super inspiring, beautiful songs, beautiful voice, just so great. Yeah. So that. Who else? Oh, Billie Eilish. Like I sing What Was I Made For? So I do some covers when I play. One of the gigs I do is I play the airport.
Okay.
So through this program called Gigs for You, and so my intention going there is to play like soothing music and also music that people know, but then also I have my own original stuff.
Yeah.
And so that Billie Eilish, What Was I Made For, is definitely one of those. Even Miley Cyrus's song, Flowers. And these are all like, I love that these songs aren't about longing for somebody else.
Yeah.
They're more like more about you, more about
a little more introspective.
Introspective, yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, and like self-care, which I feel like since the pandemic, everyone is like on this. I just, on this kick, reading stuff, realizing our childhood traumas, and just like, and that we don't need a partner to make us whole. It's all about like being okay first and loving yourself first, and then you can be good for other people, the world.
Well, I think so many people, again, were stuck at home for so long, they really had to look inwards.
Oh my God.
At a certain point, it's kind of hard to be distracted by the world about yourself when you're stuck with yourself.
For sure. Yeah. A lot of shadow work.
Very much so.
Dark Night of the Soul. I definitely went through a bunch of that. Yeah.
Yeah. The pandemic was tough for me because I'm very like out. I really like to get out. I like to do a lot of stuff. My band that I was in that I think would like my best musical experience all fell apart during that time too. And so I like went through this point in time where I just couldn't make music because I was so used to that process.
Right.
That like being inside, I was like, no, I usually don't touch this stuff until it's time for me to make music for that. And then people come over and help me work on it. So,
and then a part of it also being a little bit mad.
Yeah. 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 Especially because like my thought process was, okay, we can't interact with the regular world at all. But if all of us aren't interacting with the regular world and we're staying inside, couldn't we stay inside as a band? But like at the same time, we all were like, no, but we can't do that. So like dealing with that duality of like wanting to try and like cut the corner, but also like stick with it and like do what everybody else was doing to kind of stick for the people. Like it was a tough time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Super tough.
Yeah.
And I quit drinking. I quit.
I went 100% sober during the pandemic.
Did you?
Yeah. It was really strange. Not that I'm like active in any of it anyways, but like during that time, like, I was drinking regularly with people in general. And I didn't have a single drink during the pandemic.
Didn't?
Yeah.
Wow. I noticed that I started drinking more when the pandemic hit, just to maybe just deal.
Dull the time.
And then it was like, definitely, had a check-in with my husband that was like, I think you need to quit drinking. And I was like, you know what? You're probably right. I'm going to quit drinking. And then I haven't drank since. And it's been like 4.5 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, I was definitely completely sober for 6 months, but then I started smoking weed. I was like, I need something. So I started smoking weed. But actually, I quit smoking weed beginning of August this year because I got COVID for the second time.
Oh, no.
And this time, it was very like I wasn't recovering after gigs easily. I know that my head was super foggy, like super foggy brained. Yeah. So I was like, I don't want to make it even more foggy with weed. So I just like, I maybe smoked it one time and I was like instant regret, like, and so, yeah, I've definitely noticed that my energy like has depleted since this last COVID getting that, which I'm really like, in the recovery of vocals. Like I sang a song today for my grandmother's memorial and I was dizzy.
Oh no.
Yeah. But
yeah,
we do what we can.
True.
And I'm thankful for the health that I do have.
Yes, very much so. Well, that is definitely kind of a tough spot to be in, but at least it sounds like you're taking all the measures you need to kind of stay on top of it.
Definitely. Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right. Now, I have one last question to go in this middle portion. And this is probably the densest question in the interview. But we've talked about, your experience of music, actions, reactions. But when it's just you and music, one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
What does it give back? Yeah, that's a good one. Well, it's like therapy, I guess. It's like processing. It's like getting something out that I need to, and then when it's out and completed, then it's like a breath of fresh air, I guess. It's it makes me feel good, especially when I do it with the right intentions and like not for anyone or trying to get money or trying to be famous, but like for like what. I mean, when it really started mattering to me was when I really sat down with Ableton in like 2018. I feel like that's when I was really like, what makes me feel good? Because then if I know that it makes me feel good, if I feel soothed or I feel loved, then I'm sure that other people feel that way too. And if I really, it's like if I'm really good with myself, then I believe in it. When I believe in it, then other people believe in it. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Gotcha. It's just as long as you believe in it. So I think it's helped me through a lot of self-doubt. But then also, with being an artist, you have
creates
that.
Self-doubt.
It creates self-doubt.
Yeah,
but definitely, self-assurance, figuring out who I am.
Well, I mean, you even said in the beginning that it you used to be very shy.
Oh yeah.
And through it, you have clearly become the opposite. You're now out there and doing things all the time and helping other people to do it. So in a way, I feel like it helped you kind of grow into the person that it sounds like you wanted to be.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel good when I can inspire people that are maybe struggling with their own self-doubt or their own will anyone even care? And it's like, who gives a fuck if anyone cares? Do you care? Does this make you feel good? Do you believe in it? Well, then things will just fall into place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions.
Oh, okay.
And for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. Okay. But this first one's pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive.
I already know.
Who would it be?
Beck.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. What a good answer.
Totally Beck.
Yeah.
I love him. He's my favorite musician in the whole world.
Yeah. Oh,
I would love
what
that.
What a good answer.
Right?
What would you want to do? How would you want to work with him?
Oh my God. Maybe just go into his studio, or maybe even him just come over. I would just love to see how, I'm sure that he's somebody, I don't know if I don't know who he is, but like if he came into an environment and there's like different sort of setup than what he has. I know that for me, when I'm like that, come into an environment where things are different and it's like I'm a little kid wanting to learn. So it's like, I just feel like it would just be really fun to be like, ooh, what does that do? Oh, let's go with that sound, you know, and just like see what unfolds. So I don't know.
Hell yeah, that's
Play
awesome.
with some synths, make weird sounds with some synths.
Yeah. And I imagine Beck is probably the kind of person who could just walk into a room and like be like, all right, let's get to it.
Yeah. Ooh, that's fun. Let's do that. Yeah, like pick up one of my like weird percussion instruments that I have laying around, because we have a lot of like little instruments because it's a music studio. Yeah. So I've got these weird tubular bells that I got at a garage sale, and it's like tuned really awesome. I definitely want to use it for a song, so I could imagine him like seeing that and be like, let's do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know who he is, but I can just imagine that would be
very
fun
much
and
so.
easy flowing like that.
Yeah. Oh man, what a cool answer. I really like that.
Thanks.
And then subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
Oh, a local artist that I haven't been able to connect with. Like musically, work with? Ooh.
And I know you've been out there a lot, so I imagine it might be a little bit of a tougher question.
Yeah, there are a few of them. I know, like Guy in Acid Tongue, that would be fun. He's like a totally different genre than what I work in.
Yeah.
That would be really fun to collaborate. There's Shayna Shepherd. Like she's really great. It would be fun to like do something with her. We definitely have done some improv stuff around, but and like we did a Christmas show one time, but like to actually like write a song would be interesting. Yeah, there's so many.
Yeah, I could imagine.
I mean, Joop Joop is a band that's been around. They're like kind of electronic, and also rock band. I really like their sound. Be fun to do something with them.
Hell yeah. Well,
KJ Saka.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
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 Damn,
So,
I dig that.
yeah.
Well, everybody, you know what to do. At them in the comments. Let's see if we can make that happen. And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limits, and it's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it was guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
Where would I want to perform? It'd be fun to like perform on a floating dock somewhere, like in the water.
Yeah.
That would be kind of fun. I don't know where exactly. Water is like all over the world.
I was going to say, yeah, that's pretty open-ended.
How about Greece?
Okay, yeah, they've got water.
Yeah, they've got water there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, everybody get on it. Let's see if we can make that happen too. And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album from?
I mean, probably Beck.
Fair. Yeah. And then usually I add this on. When would you have wanted the album to come out?
Oh, that's interesting. When?
Yeah.
How about put him in a time machine and see what he could have done like back in the 70s?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, that would be cool.
Right?
Especially if it's like him knowing what he knows now, but knowing he has to like limit,
stay within the realm of...
he does, doesn't want to butterfly affect it too hard.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool.
That would be interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. This comes out in like early-ish December. So with that in mind, what can we look forward to between, say, now and June?
Well, definitely this single that we'll be releasing with Marmalade called Man with a Plan, and we'll have a music video with that. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And then for this next one, go and look straight at your camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
You can find me on katrinakope.com. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, all under Katrina Kope, Kope.
Awesome. Yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you'd like to put on while you're on here?
Shout outs. Shout out to my mom who's in remission, Connie Weibel. She's also a musician. Shout out to my sister, Christine Michelle. My partner, Raul Hardin. He's dope. So my bandmates, Devin Buse, Tyler Cope, I love you. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. With that being said, we've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second. As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation. But in all of music, what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
Well, how about, I loved it back in the 90s when people would make singles off of their album. I really, really like Tori Amos's Hey Jupiter. There's a live version of that song, and it's like made me cry every time I hear it. It like touches me.
Yeah.
Right there.
Hell yeah, that's an awesome rec. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, with that being said, we're going to go and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Katrina Kope.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.